I'm back, baby! Well, I've got 2 weeks time now. What am I gonna do? Brilliant! Man, these were the hardest 2 hours of my life. I need help. Yo, welcome everyone to another Sledgehammer review. I'm your host, Dr. Sledgehammer, and I desperately need to talk to somebody right now, especially since I'm stuck in this apartment for the coming 2 weeks. And I was thinking I might as well just talk to you so very lovely people about a topic that comes dear to my heart. And it just so happens that I wanted to have a look into a game that I have been looking forward to for quite some time. A game that goes by the name Eastward. Eastward is a role-playing game that has been in development for the last 6 years by a company named Pixpil. Pixpil was founded by 3 young game developers in Shanghai, China, specifically to develop Eastward. Back when they came up with the game concept, 2 of the 3 developers have recently formed a family and wanted a protagonist that they can relate to. So they took inspiration from The Last of Us and created a dynamic duo that consists of a middle-aged man named John and his adopted daughter Sam, who went out to save the world. The art style and humor in the game are heavily influenced by the Mother series, or Earthbound as it's more commonly known, while the gameplay is more reminiscent of the Zelda series. I assume that the game developers also took huge influence from Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann, a Japanese anime in which mankind lives underground. At least the narrative in the first 2 chapters of the game is quite similar to the anime. Of course, the influence does not stop there. There are elements from all sorts of games from that era. You can clearly see that the developers really loved what they're doing and that they played a lot of Super Nintendo role-playing games from back in the day. Anyway, enough talk. Let's get started, shall we? An epilepsy warning label. That's always a good sign. Potcrock Isle is a town established by miners who mostly live in a trailer park. The people living here are kinda authoritarian dicks that like to bully others. The game starts by introducing us to our main protagonist, John, who is a 40-year-old all-round badass that is recognized and respected by the town's community because he works his ass off digging tunnels in the town's mines. Heck, even the town's mayor thinks that he is a total workhorse. John is currently taking his adopted daughter Sam to help him dig a tunnel in a mine shaft. A man I can respect. See, this is how you toughen up your children. You hand them a shovel, you give them some fucking TNT, and you send them off to the mines. And while you're at it, have them go barefoot. And make them wear a potato sack. Along the way, you will immediately start noticing the Earthbound influences. The characters are interesting to say the least. I mean, it is really fun interacting with them because they just ooze character. John and his co-workers are about to start their shift when suddenly a co-worker runs in reporting a slug attack in a mine shaft. John is of course the only adult in the room, so it's up to him to deal with an entire army of slugs. And guess what? His main weapon is a fucking frying pan. No idea where he hides it, but pretty cool. In this game you pretty much just spam the attack button and John performs the necessary combos to destroy everything that is in front of him. You don't have to do much else. As long as you are in range you will stun block any motherfucker that dares to step in front of you. You can also power up your pan and either close distance on your opponents to strike them with a powerful strike, or you can use it to aim objects and smack them around. The gameplay is very similar to the Legend of Zelda gameplay. We even have the damn bombs. The pace is of course much faster than in the Zelda games, and as the game progresses, the number of different enemies that attack you will make dungeons really challenging. I also really like the chill music and the dark tone the dungeons have. It kinda has a calming effect on me. The graphics are designed to be easy on the eyes even after long gaming sessions. I feel like it makes smashing random shit feel like a relaxing therapy session. Fuck, it is just so exciting smashing random shit in this game. Yeah, fuck those barrels and fuck those crates. Bam, bam, bam! Come to think of it, how effective is a frying pan in a real life situation? This weapon is bullshit! Anyway, we have to blow up a couple of slug nests in this dungeon so we can continue working in this mineshaft. The whole thing is not really that complex, as this is kinda the tutorial level. Only problem is, we didn't dig up enough goods today and the town's mayor is not very pleased with us. As you move around town, you will sometimes get to participate in minigames that will help you learn skills that you will need in dungeons. Smacking bombs, for example, is something you will have to perfect because you will have to do this quite frequently. As the game progresses, Sam will develop her own set of moves that she can use in dungeons. This is where things become very interesting, as both characters have their unique roles in each dungeon, making puzzle sections and battles quite interesting. For example, Sam's attacks can only stun most opponents. They are only lethal to creatures susceptible to magic, which means that John has to do the smashing. Often you have to switch between both characters to fight just one single opponent. Sam is much smaller and can fit in places that John cannot fit in. On the other hand, John is stronger and can push objects around. Sam has learned how to communicate with people, while John is just an ape. John has learned how to cook. He has a very interesting, unique cooking technique.
Back to save your memories. But are they worth saving when you are old but have no children?
Most boss fights are at about a medium difficulty. They are tough, fun, colorful, and really creative. Winning the battle usually depends on understanding the game mechanics properly, and that's about it. Many of the tougher bosses have a weak spot that you can blindside them from, which is something I easily identified and abused mercilessly. The final two bosses, which for obvious reasons I'm not gonna show you, are a little bit more tricky as they trigger quick time events that require a little bit more dexterity. The gameplay is something I cannot complain about, and the main plot is really interesting and really mysterious. I cannot tell you too much about the plot because I would ruin the game for you, so I have to be a little bit more careful from here on out. Basically, we are in a post-apocalyptic world in which most of humanity was wiped out by this mysterious black cloud called the miasma. Our protagonist John and his adoptive daughter Sam are trying to save the rest of humanity by finding the source of this cloud. Along the way, you visit a number of settlements in which people try to rebuild society. It is of course amazing seeing how each society tried to rebuild civilization a little bit differently. What type of caveman will put their toilet paper on their cistern? How am I supposed to reach that? What is more interesting, however, is the people living there. Let me introduce you to Eastward's two-edged sword. Every character in the game is a changing organism. That means with every event you trigger, every character in the game changes. Be it a middle-aged woman who is having a love affair with a guy that has the same name as her son. A bully who is trying to catch his victim on the way to school to steal his lunch. Now where are your mother's kids? Jack Ma of Alibaba, who shares with you some really valuable life lessons. The story of Jackie and the Drunken Master, or two drunk idiots who are trying to make it in the big city but keep falling flat on their faces. Or does this guy have a ball sack where his shin is supposed to be? Or is this guy sucking on a penis with balls coming out of his mouth? Of course, there are many other characters I could talk about, but it is better you meet them yourself. Each character is different, and the developers made sure that every character walks, talks, and acts differently. The developers also made sure that some characters have different accents and different text sounds to flesh them out a little bit more. By the way, how come this asshole talks French? He grew up down the street! You get to make a bond with every character in the game. This is an amazing feeling because you get to interact with hundreds of characters and you get to make a connection with all of them. This is honestly the best part of the game. But it is also its greatest weakness. The largest problem Eastward has is that you will sometimes feel like you are playing a visual novel. Often there is too little action between long, mandatory, unskippable dialogue sections. And even the breaks between dialogue sections are short-lived, and the activities you get to do feel like side quests that lead to more dialogue sections. Seriously, Chapter 3 is like a 6 hours long visual novel, and it is by far the longest chapter in the game. Most of the plot deals with the bet made between Lee and Sam. It went kinda like this. Lee bets that John is not a good cook, and Sam is like,
"Bitch, you're going down."
no ante, no wager, no consequences when losing, nothing. Sam just wants to prove that John can cook. Ah, and whose idea was it to create a silent protagonist in a game in which interactions with NPCs are really important? Thankfully, we have Sam, who manages to be really charming despite having to talk for both herself and John. John, by the way, actively chooses not to talk. I mean, seriously, he is not just a silent protagonist, no, people actually talk to him and he ignores them. For real, the game even jokes about John's refusal to talk. Here is the main problem I noticed. The game is simply too small for all the character interactions needed, and there aren't enough interesting side quests for me to do. And even if I did have enough interesting side quests, there isn't much skill development going on here because there are barely any skills to upgrade. In my opinion, you need like 2 to 3 hours more exhilarating gameplay to make the game a little bit more balanced. A secondary problem I noticed is that whenever I am at an emotional high from the last place I visited, the game forces me to interact with an entire village full of new characters. I found this to be really disturbing, especially in the Monkeywood section of the game. I felt like shit because of previous events. I was at an emotional high and suddenly I am here interacting with a bunch of monkeys shooting movies on a train. But honestly, as long as you have a little patience, a little tolerance, you should be fine. And the payoff is huge at the end of each section, as you will find yourself emotionally invested in the people living there. And that goes double for New Dam City, which is my favorite section in the game. The characters here feel real to me. They are well written. I actually feel like they are more real than most voice-acted 3D animated characters. Look at how much you learn about the personality of these characters by just looking at them. The character movement animations say more than 1,000 words. The mayor of Potrock Isle actually gives me the vibes I get from Kefka in Final Fantasy VI. A voice-acted, 3-dimensional character cannot duplicate this cartoonish, unreasonable, evil behavior you get here. There is no comparison. One final thing I would like to talk about. This is a game made for adults. Do not get misguided by the cute animations and the fun music. No, this game contains shocking events that will rattle you to your core. Also, you will see characters using swear words here. This is something you would not expect from a game like this. Strange, why is there a classroom here? What the fuck are these contraptions here? Is this BDSM? What the fuck is this? What is this room? Why the fuck are there tissues here? What is this? Whoa. And the giant morning glory to you, babe. I really love this game. But I do have to acknowledge that the game has its issues, especially with the whole visual novel issue. The game is definitely not for everybody. If you don't like reading a lot of dialogue, this game will not make you happy. I give the game an 8.5 out of 10. I strongly recommend that you buy this game, and I will be on the lookout for more games developed by Pixpil in the future. As of right now, I was Dr. Sledgehammer, and I will see you guys in the next Sledgehammer review. Bye. By the way, there's an entire video game you can play inside Eastward. How cool is that?